Welcome to Street Journal, everybody. I'm sitting here with Mary Gordon from Harlem, New York. This is a picture that she painted of my mother. And I don't know if I can show you, I don't think I took a snapshot of my mother, how she was looking, how she was dressed that day, but if you were there, you had to see that picture take shape.
Definitely. His mom, her personality is like so vibrant, so eccentric that I was very I was geared towards it. I was painting in the background. I was painting like a scenery. That's why you see like greens and everything. I was painting like the storefront that was in front of us. But then that became boring, and I was having a conversation with June, his mom, and we talked about, it's not even just talked about, I was just so attracted to her energy that I said I wanted to paint her. I was like, you know what, I'm going to paint you right now. And I went over and I did this fast painting of her. It was very limited supplies that I had. I was telling them that I didn't have any brown paint. So I used a brown paint marker that Lance had, another artist you'll see later on in the video, and some other, like a lot of like gold and silver paints that he had, metallic paints that he had in yellow, and a black marker. This is a black Sharpie, actually. I didn't have any black paint either. And she had like these sparkles, and the black coming from her hair, that's not her hair. She wears like this scarf under her hat. And it had like strings. It was just so beautiful. She looks like a cow woman, as in like a cowgirl, you know. So, and I wanted to like just capture that and be able to give her something, because one, she let me stay in her room while I was here too. So this is just like,
yeah, she's stressed about getting it ready too. She was really,
yeah. Like I came in and it was all neat and everything. So this is like my ode to her, like, and a thank you for having me.
I mean, if you somewhere in the I have a picture of actual photograph of her, and you'll see how this actually captured, how close it captured. My mother standing there, what she was wearing, and the energy that day. So what brought you to Buffalo?
So Paula is like my life mentor. We've been connected for like 10 years now. So Paula, she could call me and I'm coming. So, and she knows that. So I'm her go-to girl. I help her with everything. Curating, setting up, selling, painting, anything. And Paula, it's just like, it's like everything I do is like giving back to those who's done for me. Like the same thing I said, like with Joan, she like let me have her room, for the weekend, and I like give her this piece as an ode to her, you know, not directly as an ode to her, but like that can play as an ode to her. And with Paula, this is my ode to her too, because like I owe her so many odes. She owed me too. Like she owed me too. I got my list. She owed me. But I just can't say no to Paula. Paula's always been helpful to me, and that's what brought me to Buffalo. And it's my first time in Buffalo, so I saw some great artwork. I went to the Albright Museum.
So Albright Knox.
Albright Knox Museum. That was really great. The Giant Steps exhibition was still up. And we saw Robert Indiana's work. And I'm from New York, so we really love his love statues. So it was really great to see those in person. And we went to the student museum. What is it called?
The Birchfield Penny Arts across the street.
It was a great student museum. One of the guys that accompanied us, Jalen Law, he was telling us a lot about the professors that he had that was featured in that show. So it was easy for us to just migrate around. But that was a great day yesterday, and I've been learning a lot from Curtis himself with all of his technical, innovative ways of like explaining what Buffalo's like foundation is. Why is it so important? You know, and like why people don't focus on it anymore, and like the importance that came out of the great things that came out of Buffalo. Very innovative city.
Yeah, it's we're trying to make a comeback, but hopefully the comeback will include people of color, and by people of color I mean black people, African people. I'm trying to get away from the people of color, because that still refuses to identify us as African. Mm-hmm. It's like we were Negro, color, black, we're everything but African.
Yeah.
And there's this renaissance in Buffalo. Kind of really isn't including us. Even though we got a black mayor, a black police commissioner, that's not relevant. He's going to move on to his next political thing, or when his term is up, and we as black people really aren't going to still have anything here. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to get off track. So and actually, I understand. You know, one of the things I was told, don't get her started talking about about the progressiveness in black people. You seem to have done a lot of research on a lot of different things that I didn't know. Like for instance, you just showed me the about the flag. I never knew about the flag, the wartime peacetime thing. As I'm gonna try and cut a photograph of that in. So tell me about that.
So with the peace flag, so I recently learned about it. It's like on the internet now because I follow. The thing is, you have to utilize social media in a positive way. So if you following people who's on top of their stuff, putting out information, they learning things and putting it out there for their people to learn too, that's when those are the people you need to follow, not the rappers and everybody who's doing drugs and all this other stuff. We need to follow those that we want to, surround ourselves like. And I recently learned about the peace flag versus the war flag here in America, and that the flag that we all know, like the blue, white, and red, is our war flag, and it's been up for like many years now. And we have a peace flag that nobody ever knows about or ever flew
Or ever seen.
But it's also because we've been at war with our citizens, and I'm talking more so as like a country. We've been at war with our communities and citizens. We've been at war with the black people, the brown people here, the Native Americans, the Africans here. It's like to a point where we're just a mixing brew of people and races, to a point where like now we have this people of color term. You understand? But now we get lost in that. Because when you look at advertisement that says people of color, right? All you see is one dark-skinned person. Everybody else is light-skinned, Asian, we are only represented once. Yeah. And that's it.
Yes.
And that's not what people of color meant. We were supposed the whole term people of color, I don't like it either, was meant to dilute us. Dilute us.
That's just what does. It keeps people from seeing that African Americans never got their just due. People think that, well, you got welfare. No, welfare wasn't for us. They didn't put the welfare system in place for us. There are whole cities that have welfare. Welfare was put in place to support the people that were suffering when they pulled the steel industry out, or all these other industries out. That's what welfare was for. It wasn't for us. So they keep trying to dilute our power, dilute our existence. Eventually, they're going to keep putting more cream in the coffee, and you won't even realize it's coffee anymore.
Even public housing, like especially public housing, it was meant for war veterans coming back from the war, and they're like white war veterans coming back with their families so they can have a safe place to live, But they end up putting brown people and African American people into these facilities after a while because they was just moving in. So I guess that goes into like the white flight too, Like
for those here in Buffalo, if you look at the Kenfield Langfield projects, right down Eggert are those World War II homes, those houses they built for the veterans, and they built, like you said, they built those projects for the soldiers coming back. Eventually, they started using, as those soldiers moved out into homes. Eventually, they started saying, well, we can use that to put black folks in.
Let's isolate them over there. Let's put that population over there. And it's also like to control the population as well. Like it's crazy.
So how does your activism fit into your art?
My activism fits into my art is just by like talking about things, not being afraid to like speak on things, talk on things, research, and like putting out a new image. Because my activism is for like self-love and self-appreciation, because in order to build the brown community, we need to learn how to love ourselves. And in order to love ourselves, we need to love our neighbor, because we need to, if I don't love myself, how can I love somebody that looks like me? So once we appreciate our skin, appreciate our ancestors and everything like that, and give praise to them, we will move forward. And I try to put that in my work. I do a lot of like teaching and mentoring. That's really where my activism lies in. When it comes to like my personal work, it's more so just putting out the energy, vibrations, depending on how serious the piece is. It's definitely a work of activism, but my activism work is more so in my teaching in my mentorship with the
What
youth.
What do you teach?
I'm an art teacher, so I'm a art activity specialist. But I specialize in mentoring.
Okay.
I'm a professional mentor for students in New York City, all over. I just haven't taught in Buffalo or anything like that. But I
Well,
teach.
you taught me something last night about the fly. I didn't know that. So you started. You got your foot in the ground.
Yeah, so I teach youth from like K-12 all over New York City in different public schools. Just a lot of the pieces that we do is like a group mural where everybody of all grades come together and like put their ideas, what they want, put it together and put out something that they can be proud of. We do a lot of like self-portraits. We do a lot of like cutouts of magazines for brown girls who just not represented in those magazines. And a lot of them, I have a piece too that Paula really loves. It's like a girl on a stage, and it's a brown ballerina on a stage about to dance, but it's all these angry faces cut out from magazines of white women that's just judging her, yelling at her, like just nasty looks and everything like that. But it's like, although these women want to be just like us, they want to be brown just like us, they still denounce us for being who we are.
So do you think that is that a situation of art imitating life, or is that how it actually is in your mind? Do you think that would occur? In that?
Yeah, I actually do. I truly believe that white women are the devil, and that they have a different agenda, you know. And when it comes to like putting down the brown women, it's we like to look and be like, oh, the black men don't love us and know everything like that. They putting us down, but it's really like the white woman that's controlling that agenda as well, for black men not to like white women. I mean, brown women anymore, because it's like, hey, I got a fat ass now, and I have this, I have that, but I'm white. You know, come over here. I have everything that she has, but come over here. I'll do right by you. You know. But it's also how she treats the black woman, how she treats the brown woman that initiates that further agenda, initiates that agenda. Because when you interact with a white woman, like, I had a white friend once, and I told her I couldn't be friends with her anymore because I felt like her advice was bringing me down. Like I would confide in her about things, and like the things she would do, it's just like she wasn't helping me build myself. She was always a distraction. Like, we would be working last minute on a project in a lab, and I'll be working on mine, and she would just be finishing her or ahead of hers, and she'll be like, oh, Mary, you know, do you want to come with me here? Like, you want to come get food? Let's go to the cafeteria. Let's do this. But you see me working hard, and you know
so
this
she'll
project
distract
is,
you from yours.
yeah, like little things like that. Like, where it's different when you have a strong bond with a brown woman, it's always uplifting. Oh, no, girl, you need to do this. You shouldn't wear your hair like that. You look, you know. But when a white woman, everything she loves, everything she do, she fetishes over the brown skin. So you could look crazy. Your hair could be nappy. You need to comb it and brush it. But she going to tell you look beautiful because she want hair just like that. I had white women in college come up to me and tell me they're straight up jealous of me because I could change my hairstyle. I could dress any kind of way. Like, a lot of women will admit to you, you know. But a lot of women won't either.
I'll tell you. I had to give an apology, and I'm going to do it here again at this time. Apology to all the black women I've ever criticized for straightening their hair, because one day I was sitting in front of a tanning parlor and I was watching them the parade of white women going in trying to get darker skin, and I'm like, you know, that's worse than the hair straightening. And the perms, they're going in and they're trying to look, you know, trying to put some color into their skin so they can look like what we already have.
Yeah, that tanning thing is out of control. Oh, I hate the summer, like, when it comes to the tanning. Especially when you're on, like, vacation and you, like, run into white people, like, and they just tan. They're like, oh, look at my tan, or, oh, I'm just so white. Like, it's just weird. Like, sunscreen, like, I don't want no sunscreen. Like,
they're caught up in it. You know, but at the same time they hate it. So it's the hate that you have what they can't have naturally.
Yeah, and that's sad. It's like, how can you want something so bad that you hate the person for having it but still want it? You know, it's just like, what is it gonna look like on you?
Well, the same thing is done culturally as well. So they want hip hop, but they don't want it from us.
Yeah, that's why they're promoting a lot of like white. You see, because first of all, hip hop in the beginning it was to teach us, to help us, uplift us during a time period, like all music was, like a revolutionary music. But the thing is, we gave hip hop away to white people. We gave hip hop to white people. We depended on white people to put our music out, to do this, that, and the third. That's why NWA was really good, because he made his own record, like, you know, Eazy-E made his own record label, put his own stuff out and everything like that. But at the end of the day, he still got fucked over by a white man because he depended on him for something. And it's more so like getting that blind eye, like, you need to believe in yourself. You can move forward with yourself. So we should never gave hip hop to white people, because we would have had something.
Hip hop, R&B, all our entire culture. So let me ask you this: how did you get started in drawing? When did you first have the feeling that you had some talent in drawing?
Well, my father is, he's Jamaican. He's from Kingston, Jamaica. He was a famous tailor. So he makes suits in Jamaica, and they imported him to America here to work for Persicelli, some suit company, Italian suit company. And so that artistic vibe always been within my blood through my father. Because although he doesn't believe he's a great artist, he was also very creative and talented, and he passed that down to me. So it's something that I was born with, and I have a natural gift with it. So the first time I classified myself as an artist was in 3rd grade. I drew my first portrait. But I told myself to stop drawing, and so I could study, focus on my studies. It was the first time they put state tests into schools, so I had to focus on those studies. But then art is something, if you don't practice it, you will forget how to do it. So I had to relearn it in like 6th and 7th grade, and by the time I haven't had any art classes. And then in 10th grade, I applied to Parsons 3-year scholarship, and it's an art school in New York, and I got accepted. And that's where I learned. I had like my first art classes. So I learned how to paint. I learned how to do this. I learned to do that. And then ever since then, I was having art shows. I was having this. But my art, aside from like just painting and drawing, I'm a creative person. My mind is always art. I see the aesthetic in everything. I have a perfect eye for it. So it's something that's like just natural.
So you said also curating. Tell me about that.
I really enjoy curate, and that's something that side I definitely picked up from Paula. Coming up, I met Paula when I was in high school. I was like a troubled teen, like just on suspension sites and everything like that. And I saw this art gallery, and I walked in and said, "Hey, I love art," and like, and it's black owned, like everything. I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to volunteer here. And since then, Paula gave me the
Which
business
one?
side. Curtis,
the Curtis,
Jacobs
okay.
Gallery.
Yeah.
And since then, Paula has given me like the runaround business of the arts. Like, so I help her curate certain shows. I would sit aside while she curates certain shows, and that business side of arts definitely spilled over into my professionalism when it came to dealing with artists.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking. I would like to talk to you again. We're going to be in a group setting talking to some other artists.
Definitely.
So, yeah, when do you're going to be going back late this evening, right? Or this afternoon?
Late this evening, going back, taking the Amtrak back to New York, but I'm very grateful.
We enjoyed your visit.
Thank you.
Now, this piece of work, I'll have to show you later the full thing, because it's quite an extensive size piece. This was work done by, this was a live painting done by Lance, what is your name?
Lance Johnson.
Oh, okay.
AKA LJ Art.
All right, I wasn't sure which of those to say. Yeah. And no, well, as far as no relation, you know, probably same plantation.
Yeah, absolutely. You know how that is. I am Johnson, just like you.
All right.
All right.
So, how long have you been involved in art?
My story's weird because when I was 14, my mom showed me a documentary of the Harlem Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And up until that point, I maybe dabbled in a little bit of drawing and stuff like that, but art was never really on my radar. And then once I saw this documentary, I saw the work of Romeo Bearden, and he's a famous collage artist during the Harlem Renaissance, at the tail end of the Harlem Renaissance. And I was just completely blown away by his work. Like, the way he celebrated urban life, black life, and he just elevated ordinary black people into, like, to me, they look like superheroes. And I wanted to capture that vibe and that style.
What's the name of the artist again?
Romeo Bearden.
Okay.
Yeah, and he would do like these like cityscapes with cut images from magazines and stuff like that. And I kind of, in my mind, I wanted to like elevate that to the hip hop community and to celebrate the life that I lived, because I grew up in the Bronx, so I wanted to capture that energy, that vibe, in the collage form, just like he did. So I thought, man, that's amazing. I want to try to do that. So when I started doing that, I never really had the confidence to show people my work, right? So I started like working on these little collages to try to emulate or to try to aspire to be like Romeo Bearden. But I would just tuck them away. I wouldn't show them to anybody because I wasn't confident, and I didn't really know how to define myself as an artist at that time.
Do you still have those sketches?
I do have a few of them, yes. I do have a few of them. Some of them have been sold so far.
Okay.
And my mom has some of them as well, just as a reminder of
where
I came from.
Where you came from.
Yeah, so I would tuck them away. I hid them from everybody. And then about, I would say, 11 to 12 years later, I was looking through some old papers, and I found one of these collages, and it brought me back to that moment where I was like, oh, where I remember the Romeo Bearden and the energy, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start doing this again. I hadn't done anything for like 12 years as far as art was concerned, but then once I saw that old image, that old collage that I did, I was like, you know what, let me try to do something with these.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That now, so you said you came across the work that you had done years ago.
Yeah.
It brought you back to that emotional.
Yeah, about the love of creating, the process of art. Right. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, I remember doing this and how it made me feel. And I was like, you know what? I want to do these again, man. I want to like see, and then and this time, I want to show them to the world. I want people to see them and to get feedback. You know, so at that point, I was like, I have the confidence now to create more and to start showing them.
So, let's pause.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were talking about you used the word process. What is the process that you use in putting a piece together? Because I was watching you with this work that's here in front of us here, and it seems like you did a number of different things. You used brushes. I think you used some scrapers.
Yeah, I used paint scrapers.
And you're splashing some things. You did a lot. I mean, how did you? What was going through your head? I wanted to ask you. So let me just stay this way.
It revolves around my love of collage, right? So I like to layer things, right? So in my work, you'll see there's tons of layers usually, right? I'll use spray paint. I'll mix my media, so I'll use spray paint. I'll use acrylic. I never really use paint brushes. I use paint scrapers. I use my hands a lot in the work. I use paper to like imprint on the paper to create textures.
Yeah, I saw you. I don't know if you were. I know what you were doing, but I did see you put some paper on.
Yeah. So I like layers. I love to feel, and I love to feel the paint while I'm painting. And it's sort of like a performance.
This is all in your hands, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's all about performance for me. So, and so I started my love of collage, and then I moved on to street art, graffiti. So living in New York, you see a ton of graffiti, and it's art all around us, right?
Okay.
And it seeped in, right? It resonated with me. So I can walk down the street in the Lower East Side and see a building, and it could be like old, dilapidated building, maybe years and years of graffiti and posters torn and paint peeling up, and to me it looks amazing. It looks beautiful, and I try to capture that in my pieces. You know, where it could be like a building, like it looks like a side of a building maybe that has.
So is graffiti art?
Graffiti to me is totally art.
How
It's
so?
absolutely art. It's free expression. It's to me, it's art for the masses, right?
Okay.
It's a rolling, especially back in the day when cats would spray paint trains. Those are rolling museums that are open to the public. You know, it cuts down the walls. It breaks down the walls. So I love that. It's art without barriers.
We had here in Buffalo, we had a guy that was coming from the suburbs and coming in, tagging the viaducts and different buildings and so forth. And they finally discovered who it was. It was like, hey, this is not even from around here.
Wow.
It's some kid coming, some white kid coming from the suburbs, trying to emulate what he's seen, probably in New York City.
Absolutely.
But he was, I forgot what his tag name was, but they eventually arrested him and charged him with, I think, criminal mischief.
Criminal mischief.
Is the charge?
Misconduct.
So in New York, there's a lot. Does that same danger exist for graffiti artists in New York?
I would say more so back in the day. Now you see New York is like an open canvas, right? People are being paid to do graffiti work that was done back in the day.
So that must have some meaning. What does that mean to people when they see that work that they would want their building? Is that almost sounds to me like when I watched the Home and Garden channel and they're saying, well, we wanted it to look old, so we took the hammer and distressed it.
Yeah.
That sounds like they're intentionally distressing the visual.
For me, street art. You know what's funny? I think people want a piece of that wild style, that urban life, without actually going into the hood. You know what I mean? So, like, you'll see corporate offices have graffiti on canvas in their space.
Okay.
And to me, I think I think it's amazing that we're in there. We're represented in these spaces, so to speak.
I was going to say.
Yeah. So
now when you say we, who kind of started the graffiti art thing? Is that something that came out of black culture, or is that something that was just kind of a neutral thing?
Hip hop culture was born in the hood, right? So it was born in the basements of apartment buildings in the Bronx, right? It was black and Latino, right? That was where it started. Okay. And obviously as it grew, it expanded. So everybody wants to emulate what we started, right? But it's definitely, the culture began with black and Latino youth.
Well, just like breakdancing and
the elements of hip hop, breakdancing, DJing, rapping, visual art, graffiti, all of that was birthed in the Bronx, in the hood.
And you're old enough to, I'm not gonna say your age, but you're old enough to have some firsthand.
Yeah, I'm 43.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of that. I had the privilege of having an older sister. My sister's 11 years older than me. So she grew up.
She's my age.
Yeah, so she
I'm
grew
53.
up. Exactly. So she grew up in the Bronx. She would go to the T Connection, go to the Fever. She would be in the parks when they were doing the brand new rap concerts. So she fed that to me. Like, she gave me the history of hip hop, and she let me listen to the records, right? Cold Crush Brothers. I saw flyers that she had. So again, that inspired my work too, because I always try to tie the vintage, the old school, with the new school in my work, right? So I always try to, especially when I'm working with young people, because I do a lot of like art residencies in schools where I talk to kids about inspiration and always paying homage to the old school, always paying homage to the legends, right? And being inspired by them, and then taking that and letting that define your work as well. Like, always remember what they did while you're doing a piece. So that's always important to me, you know. And I thank my sister for that.
What's your sister's name?
Tracy.
Tracy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was watching you do this piece, and is it called Alive Paintings?
Yeah, it's called live painting.
It was you and Mary and Jalen
And Jalen.
each had a live project going.
Yeah.
That seemed like a new thing to me. Most art shows I go to, they're showing stuff that has already been done.
Made, yeah.
I mean, so you all had things were already made, but you were actually work. I'm looking at this because I'm remembering all of
Absolutely.
the work that went into it. But one of the things that you did was invite people to come and add their mark.
Yep.
And like I wrote the name of the show on there.
Yeah.
And people wrote different things and did different things. Where did that? How does that? Tell me about that more.
I'm big on art changing or bettering communities, right? Or bringing communities together, right? I think art has the power to transform communities. So I love to have the community that I'm painting in add their mark to the piece, right? Because it becomes theirs, you know? Whenever I do a piece for, like say, I just did a piece for a school in Peekskill, New York,
Okay.
which is a very diverse community, lower income, and I went into this alternative high school, and we had this raw canvas, sort of like this one,
Okay.
and we laid it out. It was about 15 feet long,
Oh, okay.
and we had them. We called it the Wall of Inspiration because I wanted them to add a piece of their soul. I told them, you got to put a piece of your soul on this canvas because this is your legacy for the school, right? So we did layers, right? We used spray paint, we used acrylic, we used markers, and I had them write words, and some of them was like, oh, I'm not down with that art. I don't do that art thing. I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, this is your legacy for your school. When you graduate, when you're gone, it'll still be here. So the piece right now hangs in the office,
Okay.
the main office of their school. So every kid that walks by it sees it, right? And it's amazing.
What did that do for them? Did you tell what that?
So once, like I said, when we first started, I spent about 2 weeks with them. When we first started, they were like, "Oh, I'm not into that art now. What is that?" Once we started getting into it, and we started like spraying paint and writing words like dreams, evolve, love, peace.
Did you come up with like a list of words and then say add these?
I wanted them to
or
come
did it just
up
come
with
up off the top of your head?
Yeah. So, one kid wrote Black Lives Matter. Another kid wrote All Lives Matter. And that created a dialogue of, you know, like the difference.
Yeah.
Which I thought was amazing, which was good because they're talking to each other. They're building that community. So it's for me, art can be individuals coming together as a community and creating something amazing. And then the funny thing is, at the end of the 2 weeks, their teacher called me and she was like, "You have no idea how inspired these kids were because some of them hadn't been to school in 2 weeks, and for those 2 weeks they were there every day." Wow. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, that's because they're learning a different way, and it doesn't feel like regimented school, right? It feels like it's fun, it's colorful, it's vibrant.
And they were able to express themselves.
And they were able to express themselves without anybody telling them not to, right? All we told them to do is don't put any curses on it, but just make it inspirational for the community. And
did anybody do anything that you had to black out?
Nope. Everybody was cool. Everybody was cool, you know? And I told them the power of layering too, right? Because something you put on there, it may be covered up a little bit by somebody else, but it's still there, right? Because it's still part of the history of the project, you know? So I thought that was important.
You were telling me about a piece you had done for someone that got destroyed and you had to recreate it. Tell me, without going into too much detail.
Yeah. So it was a valuable life lesson for me with insurance and putting together, packaging a piece. So somebody commissioned me. They asked me to do a piece for them, and we went back and forth about their biography and how they want me to incorporate like some collage elements to it. And it was a pretty significant piece. It was like 48 by 60. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a big piece. And I did the piece. I showed him an image of it. He loved it. I wrapped it up, shipped it. And this guy, I'm based in New York. He was based in Arizona. So shipped it. I'm tracking it every day, seeing how far. Nervous as hell because I don't know if it's gonna get there. Because and once it gets to Tempe, Arizona, I get an email saying that it got destroyed.
Wow.
I was devastated.
And did they hold any responsibility for it?
Somewhat, but not as much as they should have. You know, it was
Okay.
a back and forth with UPS. It was a disaster. I wrote reviews, terrible reviews about them. It was a mess.
Wow.
But
So the part of the story that I was fascinated by was the recreation of it.
yeah, so I called them. I told them, listen, the piece got destroyed. I feel horrible about that. He's like, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And we devised a plan for me to fly out to Phoenix and paint in his home. So before I flew out there, I gathered all the materials. I looked at the piece. I wanted to recreate it as best I could. And when I got out to Phoenix, I had all the images that I wanted to paste to the piece, and it turned out amazing. He loved it again, and we've built a relationship from that. You know.
So in terms of the point I want to hone in on is the recreating the original idea. How close to the original mix, the original recipe? It's like a cake.
Yep.
You know, some people cook precisely by the recipe. If you go to the store, you can buy 5 of those
Absolutely.
those pre-made cakes, and they're gonna taste exactly alike.
Absolutely.
But you get a old lady that can make cakes, and hers tastes, enough alike that you really can't tell the difference. It may not visually look exactly the same because
That's it.
when she's doing the icing and the decorating, or even
The slight
the
variations.
strokes of it. Yeah. So how did you feel like you had to get stroke for stroke or?
Absolutely not. Well, my work is inspired by jazz,
Mhm.
right? So, and with jazz, it's improvisation.
Right.
You start with an idea, and you riff off of that idea. So for this project that I did, the first one had a look to it, a certain look to it. The second piece that I did was a slight variation of it, right? It wasn't going to be exactly alike. It wasn't going to be exactly a facsimile of what I did, right? So I did add different elements to it in different styles, and it's just the same, right? So that's how whenever I create a piece, right, I'll have a basic idea, but then I'll improvise on that idea. I don't know where it'll take me, you know? But then I'll realize once I look at it, I'm like, all right, it's done, you know? So it's never going to be exactly the idea that I come up with, like the initial idea. It's always going to be a slight variation of that idea.
Mhm.
And for me, for me, art is organic, right? It should be like ever changing, ever evolving, you know? It shouldn't be static.
So this is your first visit to Buffalo?
First time in Buffalo, had some buffalo wings. It was good. I went
We're
to
not-
La Nova, I believe that's the name of it.
Lenovo's.
La Nova's,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have to unfortunately beep that out.
Oh, okay, sorry.
They haven't paid me to.
All right.
But it's okay.
I went to a local buffalo wing spot, and it was okay.
Everybody,
but it wasn't the
everybody
best.
knows. Everybody has their idea of what is the best place.
What's the best
You
one,
hear
yeah.
them spitting out different names, different places.
Yeah.
And pretty much you can get some good wings. The one place that I discourage people from going to when they come looking for good wings in Buffalo is Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh yeah, that's this.
'Cause
That's,
they're not
that's
they
to
don't
me is like generic.
Yeah,
Like,
they
that's like
don't
going to
follow the
Walmart.
recipe.
That's like going to Walmart for buffalo wings.
Yeah, they don't follow the recipe of hot sauce and butter. They
Yeah.
go and they got all these crazy things and you might get some wings, but
I'm a little surprised that Buffalo Wild Wings is in Buffalo.
uh,
That's kind of bold.
they They moved out. They were more deeper. So they moved to an area close to the college for people that were
for the
yeah,
transplants.
that don't know that they're not doing the real thing.
Well, I will definitely be back in Buffalo. I'm open to all suggestions for where to go for Buffalo.
So when you leave here, you're going into some other, where you going?
Yeah, man, I'm going back to. I have a couple of. I've been traveling a lot, man, and I tell artists all the time, man, just throw out what you want, right? What you want in life, right? Just throw it out in the atmosphere, the universe, and it'll happen, right? So I started out on small pieces of paper, and the greatest advice I had as an artist was. A guy went to one of my shows and he was like, you know what, I love your work, but I would love to see it bigger, right? And I was like, boom, that was a light bulb flash, because I always wanted to go bigger, but I didn't know, I didn't have the courage to. And then once he said that, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try it, right? And I did bigger canvases. I started going bigger canvases.
Okay.
And then in my mind, and I voiced it, I was like, man, I want to do walls. And that's when I got an opportunity to do a mural project on a wall. And
Okay.
so, and recently, about a year ago, I said, man, I want to travel more with my art. I want to go all over and try to inspire people from all over. And now I've gotten opportunities to go to Las Vegas. I went to Massachusetts for a project. I went to Omaha, Nebraska, where I never thought in my life I would ever be. And I came to Buffalo, and Buffalo was amazing to me. I'm going to Phoenix back to Phoenix for that art piece that I did. I'm doing another one for him.
Okay.
And then in October, I'm going to Turkey. I'm going to Ankara for 18 days and Istanbul for 5 days.
What's that about?
It's an art residency with the U.S. State Department. It's called Next Level USA. And it's a hip-hop cultural exchange program that's been going on for... It started with the jazz ambassadors in the 50s, right? So the first one was Louis Armstrong. So I'm part of that legacy, which is so humbling to me, right? So for the last 5 years, it's been dedicated to hip-hop cultural exchange.
So did they find you, or did you enter yourself?
I went online, I saw the proposal that they wanted, and I applied for it. It was a long, drawn-out process, you know, a lot of essays and a lot of work, but it was worth it, and I got in, and it's amazing. I'm so excited for that. I'm looking forward to that. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be going to Turkey.
Turkey, yeah, especially now.
Yeah, you know, so I'm excited about it. You know, I've been doing some research. We're going to be connected to the U.S. Embassy, so I'm not worried about any of that.
Okay, so you'll be straight.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Do you mind if I talk to you and Mary together?
Nah, it's definitely.
All right. Let's go.
And I'm gonna deflate this.
Okay. You cut it already?
Not yet.
So I'm sitting here with Lance and Mary together. Again, I'm glad we had a chance to have you come visit Buffalo, and I'll talk to you both individually, but we had a conversation last night with the two of you and with Jalen Law. He's a local artist from here in Buffalo, and we were talking about a lot of things, and we were bouncing a lot of things. And one of the things I want to get back to and hone on is the ability of art for social change. And how do you feel about that? Because you both work with kids.
Ladies first.
Oh, well, I'll let you start, because in my interview we kind of talked about like activism through art and everything. So you can speak on that.
Like I said, man, I think art has the power. Art has the power to change lives, change communities, one person at a time, right? So I look at a place like Bushwick, Brooklyn. It was rough back when I was young. It was rough. Nobody wanted to go to Bushwick, right? Then they started bringing in these mural artists, right? And it transformed the community, right? So they're still holding on to a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of gentrification, yes, but there's also people who were born and raised in Bushwick, and they have pride in the art that's been there, and and the change in the community. So I feel like definitely art can change the community. It's important.
Definitely. I agree. And because lately around New York City, they've been painting a lot of art. Like, they don't really take away the art, they just gentrify the art.
Yeah.
So in my area now, is this muralist going around. This guy who owns the gallery is hiring these artists to paint these endangered birds. Have you been seeing it?
I have seen those.
I hated the Audubon.
Audubon Society.
Yeah, he's like some Jewish guy. So
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
and they interviewed me one day, like Channel 13 News, like asking me about what I think about it. I told them they just need to be putting things that's related to the people in this area, not no damn birds. You talking about some endangered birds? It's endangered people walking around these streets, and you taking their land, you taking it. Oh, they did not air that on TV.
Of course.
But my whole thing was
that's a good point though. That happens a lot.
We're walking around looking at these endangered birds, but nobody's talking about how we're endangered too.
Yeah, I think the art should reflect the community. Definitely. 100%. I think that's the most important part.
The one part they do that in Harlem is the East Side. You see a lot of
the East Side.
they
represent
murals.
their culture.
135th too. They did those new murals. I know Justin knows one of the girls
135th?
with the jazz.
Oh yeah. Martha Lisa.
You see Martha Lisa.
From what I understand, though, who can afford to move to Harlem now?
Well, that's another story. God, that's crazy.
Rent too damn high.
Yeah.
I saw him on 2/5 the other day too.
Exactly. It's happening.
What part of you?
all the time.
You're in the Bronx, Lance. What part of you live
Oh,
in?
so I'm from Harlem. I
Okay.
live on Sugar Hill, like up the hill though.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Heard
And
of
we're
it.
seeing the same thing in the Bronx with the South Bronx is becoming gentrified now too. They tried to change the name from the South Bronx to Sobro.
Okay, wait. Just to speak on that, I commend the Bronx. I commend the Bronx on protecting their land, protecting the community. They have a lot of garden spaces out there. They have a lot of pantry lines, and the community base out there. They stick together, and that's what I really love about the Bronx. Right now in Harlem, we're just giving away the Harlem to everybody. Like the Soha thing, that's the only thing we didn't change. Well, the government won't even let them change that because Harlem is such a prominent place in history, so they couldn't even change that, no matter if they wanted to.
You know what's funny? I actually have an art show coming up in Harlem, and it's based around that whole Soha situation because I'm friends with one of the real estate agents that works for the company that tried to make that change.
Well, what change are you?
Soha. So they're trying to change the name
Of
of Harlem to instead of South Harlem to Soha, right? To make it more palatable for people to come in.
Okay.
Exactly.
And tourists, really
And
tourists.
Yeah. So
Okay.
she was part of that company, the real estate company that was like championing this change, and she fought against it inside her company. Like, this is crazy. This can't happen. How you doing this? And actually, the person that was doing it, she asked her like, "Why are you trying to change the name?" And she said point blank, a white lady, she was like, "Old Harlem is dead. Old Harlem is finished."
That's what she thinks. She thinks that because of what at the pace of the level of gentrification that's going on, and specifically on 125th Street right now, you would think that Harlem is over. Yeah. But what she's not doing is going to the outside skirts of 125th Street. We still live here. We still dominate this. The thing about Harlem is, and just New York City in general, we have hard-working black people that lives in this city, that live in this country all over, that pay their rent on time. They have great credit. Yeah. They raise their kids with respect. So we're not leaving. It's people in there that's not
anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. Yeah. And that's what the show was about. So she wanted to curate this show.
This specific lady that was in a thing?
No. The friend that I know, her name is Teresa. She works for the same company, and she fought against it.
For real.
Now she's putting together that show?
Yeah, so now she's putting together this show to celebrate old Harlem and try to incorporate some of the new, exciting things that's going on in Harlem, besides the whole gentrification.
So you two were actually the ideal artists to bring to the Jefferson Art Festival, because that's kind of what is going on here.
Absolutely.
On Jefferson Avenue, and you were both participated in the Jefferson Art Festival, which I thank you for that. That was great having you guys here.
Yeah, definitely.
You both did live drawings and so forth. In working with kids, how do you think that, we said that social change almost always starts with the artist. Why do you think that is?
It starts with the artist, and I remember this conversation that we had, and what I touched on was visuals, how we relate to visuals more than we relate to text.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to, like, especially in this day and age where our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter because of social media and things that's presented to us in that manner, we only look for visuals. And because we're not reading and we are doing any more research, we need those visuals to be compacted with information, emotion, and vibrations that can put out to our people to get up and work harder.
Yeah.
And the artists are leading that.
And as artists, you lead that, and as purpose. And just to even talk about, like, the social justice again and what this woman was doing with stepping out of her comfort zone. Well, she wasn't comfortable. She spoke on it, left that, and now creating something for it.
Yeah,
that
so
is
now she's trying to build a movement behind it.
That's a great example of your first question that you was talking about, like how social justice and arts and activism.
Absolutely.
Have you guys done any work together at all?
No,
We haven't. We need to, though. I think we should.
This
I
is
think it'd be cool.
I know you put some things on hers and she put some things on yours at the show.
Yeah, we should do some collaborations. I think that would be good.
Okay. Okay, you guys doing a show together at Curtis Jacobs Gallery, I understand?
Yeah, so we were informed about that while we was out here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So, but we're preparing for an art exhibition at the Curtis Jacob Gallery in Harlem.
That's exciting.
So
We're trying to bring a bridge. We're trying to build a bridge between Harlem and Jefferson.
In Buffalo?
Jefferson and Buffalo, and I think that's an important thing because there's an energy here. You know, there's people are hungry for art. You know what I mean? So, and we were excited to hang out with Paula.
Pay no
Paula
attention
Coleman.
to the lady behind the curtain.
Yeah, we were excited to come up here because Paula Coleman brought us up here, and she's trying to make build that bridge between Harlem and Jefferson.
Yes, that's my aunt. She's been working very hard.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. I could see it.
When I
happening,
I look at that movement that she's trying to do, I don't really like kind of illustrate it as like a building a bridge. I look at it as like bringing life to something that deserves it. Like where like here it's like revamping the art community. Like for example, like that fair that we was at the day before yesterday, it was great. But what made it even more great was the live painting we was doing, the interacting we was doing, bringing that energy. And I felt like I wish it was a mural as long as that strip that everybody can do. I wish it was more just like I wish it was just an art fair, you know, where people can get that live work.
It was, but it seems that people turn every festival into a place to sell trinkets and baubles.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot too in the city as well. You know, where that's where the education comes in, where people have to value the art just as much as the trinkets. You know, and I think that'll come with time.
Well, speaking of time, one, we're running out here, and two, you guys do have to get yourselves. I want to make sure you guys have enough time to get ready and for your journey home. I want to thank you both for coming on and talking to us here. We're definitely going to be following your careers, and we'll have you on again.
Hopefully you come to the art show.
Definitely.
In Harlem, that's coming up.
Make that short, long journey to.
Yeah, I love the train. Give me another reason to go. Now that Paula lives in Buffalo, I don't have much reason to go to New York anymore.
There's plenty of reasons to come to the city.
Anyway, like I said, every time I never went as a tourist. I've never seen the Empire State Building. You know, like from a
Well, I have a confession.
I've never been to
I've
the
lived in New York most of my life, and I've never been to the
Statue of Liberty
or the Statue of Liberty. So
well, we better go before they tear them down.
Yeah, right.
Listen, before they have a false flag operation that knocked it down or blew it up. But that's another story.
You want to give your Instagram and all that?
Oh, no. I'm not an Instagram person. I don't post.
Well, okay. So if anybody wants to go on social media and find you guys and see your work, where would they go?
I have a website. It's ljartlife.com.
Is it LIFE?
No, LJART life.com.
Okay, life with an I, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. Well, if I was to give out my Instagram handle, because I have a link in my bio where you can click on my portfolio.
Okay.
It's _ brown skin poppin'. And poppin' with an ING because I can spell.
All right, that's cool. Well, thank you very much, Lance and Mary.
Definitely. Peace, Buffalo.
Have a safe trip back.
Thank you for having us, Buffalo.